Hi everyone, this is Teacher Michelle and welcome to another episode of Unang Math. In this episode, I will be covering this lesson about the quadrants of the graph of this linear function y is equal to ax plus b by the signs of a and b. So in this lesson, we will be identifying the quadrants where this linear function y is equal to ax plus b lies. And we will be using the signs of the values of A and the signs of the value of B. Okay, now, there are four combinations of the signs of the values of A and B that you have to remember and understand. Okay, take note. A here is our slope and B is our y-intercept. So the first combination here is if the slope is greater than 0, which means if the slope is positive and y-intercept is also greater than 0, which means y-intercept is also positive. So where is the graph of this linear function, or what quadrants this graph lies? So if we are going to graph this function where the slope and the y-intercept are positive, then that means slope is positive, so it slopes upward. Y-intercept is positive, then that means the graph touches the positive y-axis. So it means the graph looks like this. So this graph lies in the first, second, and the third quadrants. Okay, what about in the second combination? A is positive. B is less than 0, so which means the y-intercept is a negative number. Since the slope, or A, is positive, then we expect that the graph slopes upward. Y-intercept is negative, so it means it touches the negative y-intercept. So the graph looks like this. And this graph lies in the first, in the third, and in the fourth quadrants. Okay, what about our third combination? If the slope is less than 0, which means slope is negative, y-intercept is greater than 0, which means it's positive. So if we are going to graph this linear function, if the slope is negative, we expect that the graph slopes downward. Since y-intercept is positive, so it touches the positive y axis. And then the graph now looks like this. So this graph lies in the first, second, and the fourth quadrants. And for the last combination, we have here, if A is less than 0, which means slope is negative, and B is less than 0, y-intercept is also negative. So if we are going to graph this function, since slope is negative, then the graph slopes downward. Y-intercept is also negative, then it touches the y-axis. So the graph looks like this. So this graph passes through the the second, the third, so this is the second quadrant, third, and fourth quadrants. Okay, now, what if A is greater than 0, or our slope is positive and y-intercept is 0? In this linear function, y is equal to ax plus b. So if y-intercept is 0, then we just have here y is equal to ax. Then that means since y-intercept is 0, then our graph passes through the origin. And our slope is positive, so we expect that the graph slopes upward. So this is now the graph of y is equal to ax. And that is slope is positive and b is 0. Okay, what about if a is negative? B is 0. So it means our graph slopes downward and it passes through the origin. Okay, this time, let's take a look at these another example by answering this concept check question. Okay, given the graph of y is equal to ax plus b, we will determine the signs of a and b. So a is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So according to this problem, y is equal to ax plus b. This one are these graphs, or these graphs refers to y is equal to ax plus b. Okay, let's determine the sign of the slope and the sign of the y-intercept. So in this first graph, since this graph slopes upward, then that means a is positive number. So a is greater than 0. And if you're going to take a look at this graph, it passes or it touches the negative y-axis. So it means B or our y-intercept is less than 0 or negative number. Okay, what about in the second graph? So this graph slopes downward. So that means A or our slope is a negative number. So A or slope is less than 0. What about y-intercept or B? So this graph touches or passes through the positive y-axis. So it means B or the y-intercept is positive. So B is greater than 0. Okay, this time, let's answer the following problems. So our first problem here is, in the graph below representing y is equal to ax plus b, which quadrant is not passed through by the graph of y is equal to bx plus a? So according to this problem, this y is equal to ax plus b refers to this graph. Okay, if we are going to take a look at this graph, since this one slopes or since the graph slopes downward, then that means the slope or the value of A is negative number. So slope is less than 0. So it's a negative number. Okay, what about the y-intercept? Okay, since this graph touches the positive y-axis, then we know that y-intercept is positive number. Okay, now, which quadrant is not passed through by the graph of y is equal to bx plus a? Since a is negative, so this is negative, what about our y-intercept or b? It's positive, so this is positive. Okay, if we are going to graph y is equal to bx plus a is negative, b is positive, then slope is positive, that means the graph slopes upward. B is negative, I mean the value of A here is negative, then that means it touches the negative y-intercept. So the graph looks like this. The question is, which quadrant is not passed through by this graph? So this graph passes through the first, the third, and the fourth quadrant. So which is not? Then the answer would be in the second quadrant. Okay, moving on to our last problem. Given that the graph of y is equal to ax plus b is shown below, we will determine the quadrants that the graph of y is equal to a over bx plus ab passes through. Okay, so according to this problem, y is equal to ax plus b. This refers to this graph. And if we are going to take a look at this graph, it slopes downward, then that means a is negative. And it passes through or it touches the negative y-axis. So it means the y-intercept is negative. Okay, now, we are going to determine the quadrants that the graph of y is equal to a over bx plus ab passes through. So a is negative. B is also negative. So negative, negative. Negative divided by negative, that's positive. So y is equal to a over b, x, okay, plus negative times negative is also positive. So it means AB is positive. And if we are going to graph, since the slope is positive, then that means our graph slopes upward. And the y-intercept is also positive. So it touches the positive y-axis. So it means the graph looks like this. Okay, the question is, we will determine the quadrants, the graph of this function passes through. So we have first, second, and third quadrants.